How's the weather? Rainy, windy, sunny, all of above, just like normal. Maybe put you over here. Right, we're going to do a Q&A, try and do these like once every year at least, and then I can answer some of your questions. There was way more questions than I anticipated, so I won't be able to answer them all because this video would just be way too long, but I've got a good amount to answer. So let's start off with the first one, which is, if money was no issue, what would your dream bike and or bike packing destination be? Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too. And in terms of bike, I'm quite happy with my current setup of bikes with the bomb track and the Sonda. I don't really have a dream bike right now, but destination is would be like cycling across like Nepal. It wouldn't be just Nepal, but like all around that area. I think that would be just like a really cool, awesome place to cycle and just get lost in the wilderness. Next question, are you sponsored by Ginsters? This is probably like the most common misconception and question that I often get asked is if I'm sponsored by Ginsters. I'm actually sponsored by absolutely no one, and not Ginsters. The reason I normally buy Ginsters is because they fit in my frame bag really quite nicely, and they, well, at least used to be quite cheap, and they would last a good few days in that bike bag. Nowadays they're quite expensive, so I haven't really brought them that much. But no, I'm not sponsored by Ginsters. Probably never will be. They did once, after you guys all emailed them to sponsor me, sent me a couple boxes of Ginsters, which helped save a bit of money on buying them for a few trips at least. Right. Next question. What is the best bike packing route in southern England? My personal favourite route is sort of the southwest of England. It's called the West Country Way. It goes from Plymouth to Minehead, I believe. It basically goes through Dartmoor and Exmoor. It's a nice coast to coast. It's not overly long, but I think it's like 120 miles. And it's just generally like a really nice fun route. If you want to get out and spend maybe like 2 nights out, it's like really good. Start off in Plymouth in the afternoon, head into Dartmoor, have a nice wild camp there, then head on to Exmoor, camp there, and then fly down. But yeah, I actually rode that route like 2 years ago. I'll put a little link up to wherever it is. It was extremely hot, so it was just like nice to be able to like jump in streams, in little rivers and stuff across Dartmoor and Exmoor. It was just generally a fun trip, and personally that's like my favourite bike packing route in the southwest of England. Are you ever tempted to just find a B&B in bad weather? Plus, not so much a question, but would be keen to see some more Midlands content for local inspiration. Not so much like tempted. Like I recently on the on Cycling UK's new route that I did across Wales, I did actually end up in a hotel because I just could not find anywhere to camp. Everywhere was just completely waterlogged. Everywhere was flooded and everything. So I did end up getting a hotel that night. Typically nowadays, it's just not the same as it was like maybe 10 years ago, where you used to be able to go online on the night that you want to find. You'd find like a really cheap room, maybe 20, 30 quid. It was, you know, nothing special, just a single bed, one of them old really TVs in the corner, and it was a shower. So occasionally I would used to do that. But now like a room sets you back nearly £100, and it's just like not really affordable. So typically I try and avoid it, and I actually enjoy like staying outside more anyway than actually getting a hotel or B&B. And as for the second part of that is, yeah, if you have any routes in particular or areas you want to see me ride, comment at them. Maybe what I'll do is I'll see if I can set up some kind of pin post maybe on Instagram, or if YouTube lets me do it, and then you guys can post routes and trails or areas that you want to see, and I can see if I can get around to riding them. We'll see. Next question is, do you prefer small pork pies or the large pork pies? Personally, you find the pastry to meat ratio better in the smaller ones. I kind of like little ones, the ones that come in the 4-pack, which I guess you'd consider the bigger ones, but not the absolutely massive ones, so the middle size. They're cheaper, and there's more meat, and I just kind of like them ones. The small ones are good, but they're normally more expensive for some reason. Have you tried a long distance ride on your steel audax bike? Yeah, the Bomb Track audax steel bike that I built up recently as a road bike. I haven't done anything like overnight or anything. I've done a few road rides where I've just gone out, done 100 miles, a bit more than that. It feels great and everything. It's got the nice road tyres on it now. Like I say, I haven't done any really long rides overnight camping and stuff with that bike yet, but in 2024 I have definitely got a few rides planned that will be using that bike, and they're going to be fun, so keep an eye out for them rides. What was your favourite Welsh ride? I think my favourite Welsh ride still to this day is one I did maybe, it's got to be a good 2 years ago now, and it was the Bare Bones Bash. I don't know why, that route just felt really fun when I did it. I think it was again a really hot day and I was jumping in streams, and just the trails felt really good. Also St Helen, I think I'd put up there with one of the fun rides. It's a coast to coast. I love coast to coasts, and yeah, I think that was a good one. So either Bare Bones Bash, St Helen, or if you really want to challenge, the Headstock 500 that I did recently, that was a good route too. Just it can be hard at times, but that's typical of Welsh adventures. So if you want a Welsh adventure, just be prepared, it's going to be a bit hard. Right, next questions. Do you create any of your own routes, and if so, what's the process of planning to ensure it's rideable but challenging enough? So yes, I have created a few routes in the past for you guys to go check out. You can check them out on Komoot, and the process of making them, especially the main one I've done was the 370 miles of smiles, and the process of that was I just knew a lot of the routes and I just wanted to link them up together, and I've been riding them routes for years and years, so I know they're rideable pretty much all year round, as much as off-road riding can be rideable all year round. And in particular that route was trying to make a ride that's easy enough that you can continuously ride, and there's not much hiker bike, but being long enough that you could spend enough days out. And there's a balance between finding completely off-road and then add in some road sections, which I think a lot of routes in the UK, they're so focused on staying off-road all the time that they become kind of a chore. And you can have something that's 50% off-road and 50% on-road, but you actually spend 80% of your time off-road. So it's finding a balance between how long the off-road sections take to get through, and if it's a drag, if it's a grind, versus if it's going on the road, but you'll do a lot of distance on the road in a short amount of time. It's really hard to explain this. With the 370 miles, it was just mostly, I just used a lot of trails. I've been riding a good, I don't know how old I am now, 30 something, 31. So just using trails that I know are rideable. I'll also try and avoid using, especially in England, very narrow single track, because as soon as the summer comes, everything gets overgrown, everything becomes thorny, stinging it, and just generally not a joy to ride. So for me, bikepacking, when I'm creating bikepacking routes, I try and find the more wider open trails than the little narrow single track that's full of thorn bushes each side, which in the winter, rideable fine, in the summer, not so much. I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully it does. Next question is, are you going to continue to be a full-time YouTuber in 2024? I hope so. Well, 2024, I can promise you, yes, I am going to continue doing that. But I will have to say this, this could potentially be the last year of doing it. I hope not, but this 2024 will be the deciding year for me if I can really continue to do it, just on like the business side of it, the financial side of it. I hope so, and I hope I can continue to grow this channel to a point where it's self-sustainable. At the moment it's very swings and roundabouts to say, like sometimes it's, yeah, this is looking good, sometimes, okay, not so good. So it's all about finding that balance between upload schedule, the actual videos I want to make, and the videos that also you want to watch, and making it viable on the finance side. But I hope so that I can continue to make YouTube videos for at least 10 years. That would be an absolutely amazing goal for me, is to do this for minimum of 10 years and hopefully beyond. But I'd love to be able to say yes for the next 10 years, but I can't promise that, but I hope so. When are you getting a new tent, and are you still not using a sleeping pad or mat after a long hard day in the saddle, even when the temp gets down to freezing? Okay, so as for the tent, I have actually just brought a new tent. There will probably be a video on it soon, probably on the second channel. Not really much of a fan of making like videos on the kit I use. It's not really like my most fun things to do, but it's the Lanshan one. It's just like the knockoff version of the Six Moons design. Was one much cheaper. I've only spent one night in it so far, and I didn't film anything. It was just to go and sleep in it really. So yeah, I have got a new tent, and you should see it soon and in some videos hopefully soon. And as for the next part, I get asked this question all the time. It's pretty much always a question and always a bit of a, you should use this, you should use that, and I will agree, you should absolutely use a mat or a pad. You lose a lot of heat from the ground, but no, I don't use one ever, all year round. I'm perfectly warm in my tent. I sleep 99% of the time. I sleep great, and honestly, I don't use one because I don't feel the need. Even when the temperatures get really low, below freezing, I still don't use one because I'm comfortable without one. I would use one if I was going to be riding in places where I knew that I was going to be camping on like rocks, right? So right now where I ride everywhere, I can find a grassy field, I can find some woods with some leafy dirt on, and that's comfortable enough for me. So for the comfort side, I don't need them. I don't need a mat. And as for the temperature side, I don't know why, I'm not cold when I'm sleeping. I sleep hot, I guess. Many years of just being outside, I'm climatized for the cold. With the state of the current waterways in the UK, sewage, is it still okay to filter water from streams and rivers, or best avoided? Well, I filter all the time and I've never been sick. However, I do have some rules. If I'm near a big city or a big town, I'm not going to be filtering from the big rivers or big streams. Pretty much only filter from the smaller places and the very remote places, and I'm often high up. So I think use common sense. If you're around a town or a big city, don't be filtering there. You can probably find a shop where, or go into a bar or something and buy a drink. But yeah, if I'm up a mountain, I'm happily, or some streams very remote, I'm happily gonna filter it. I've been doing it for years and I've never been sick. Touch wood. That continues. And for the question that I'm sure people are gonna ask relating to that, what filter do I use? It's the Katadyn B3 filter. Just use common sense. I also only really filter from clean looking rivers. I'm not really like into drinking muddy water, even if it's been filtered. Obviously clean doesn't mean there's nothing in it, so still filter it. But yeah, just use common sense, and I wouldn't personally filter from the big rivers and big streams next to big towns and cities. Do you feel any pressure to ride for content, and if so, has the enjoyment faded because of that? Love your videos, they keep me inspired. All the best for the new year, and hope you are looking after yourself. As for feeling pressure to ride for content, no, because I have a big list of like these rides and routes that I'm gonna do, and I want to do them. But I will say the pressure comes from having to upload at a certain schedule. YouTube is very fast-paced, it's fast-moving. You can't just upload one video and then wait for months before you upload the next one. You have to stay consistent. So for the last 2 years, I've been I'd say quite consistent. Last year was kind of rubbish, but the first year was very consistent on a weekly basis. I tried to continue that all of 2023, which is now last year because I'm filming this in 24 now, and that's where the pressure comes from. It's trying to create a video to get it up in time. That's where the pressure comes from, not the riding. I still absolutely love the riding. Sometimes filming can take away from the flow of the route or the ride you're doing, but generally I actually get a lot of fulfillment once I finish a film and I upload it, and I can also look back on it in years to come. I get to just look back and watch these videos back, and it's like a way of me remembering these rides and these adventures for me personally as well. But yeah, the pressure comes from trying to keep an upload schedule that is what I've committed to be consistent. To be honest, it's going to slow down a bit because I just want to do longer rides which take longer to film, longer to edit. So I think going forward into the 2024, the videos won't be every Sunday. I will hope to keep this promise, every other Sunday, so it will be every other week, and I hope you will stay around for that. It just means I can keep a good schedule and I won't miss any uploads. So fingers crossed I can do that. Any events or just like alone time. I get asked quite a lot if I'll ever do any bike packing races or anything like that, and the answer is honestly probably not, for a couple of reasons. I'm not very good at being around lots of people. If there's more than like one-on-one, I don't really like it. I get really anxious, I get really bad social anxiety and stuff like that, so I don't like to be around big groups of people. I find it quite draining, and I don't like it generally. The other side to that is I want to make videos and I want to make them good, and riding with somebody, and you'll probably be able to guess, I obviously have to stop quite a lot to film, to whether it's to get the shot or just get cameras out, set up drone shots, whatever. It's really boring to ride with me, and if I was going to enter like a race, I wouldn't be able to film it the way I would want to film it because I'd have to concentrate on the racing. I won't say I'll never enter one, but I might, but generally speaking, probably not. The next question is about the Badger Divide. Why do most people ride this one east to west? I'm planning mine next year and tempted to go west to east because of the prevailing wind direction. Thanks for the content. Yeah, no problem. The Badger Divide is originally designed from Inverness to Glasgow, so I think that's the main reason people do it. It's just when they download the route, that's the way it goes. I think it's as simple as that. I will say, in my experience, every time I've been in Scotland and the Highlands, I always get a tailwind heading back south, and as somebody who's ridden both directions, from the Great North Trail, Second City Divide, from cycling around the coast of Britain, and all the other routes that sort of start around there, and the GB Divide of course, I actually think it's better to start in the north and head south. Obviously if the wind is absolutely insane when you're going to ride it and you can predict that early enough, then it's probably better to go with the wind. But in my experience, I actually prefer riding from Inverness back to England, or from the Highlands back to England, or just Glasgow in your case with the Badger Divide. Also, most people that are going to be riding the Badger Divide are probably coming from like England, London or Wales, you know, somewhere south. So it's much easier and probably cheaper to plan getting to Inverness early in advance, and then on the day getting back from Glasgow. You know, Glasgow is a big city. It's going to be a bit more well connected. Inverness is going to be a bit more limited and probably a bit more expensive for most people if you can't book in advance. So I do personally think it's better to go from Inverness to Glasgow on the Badger Divide. But if you want to go from Glasgow to Inverness, crack on, have fun, enjoy the Badger Divide. It's a fun route. How do I keep all my electricals charged on multi-day rides? Now I have a video on this. It's a mixture of the dynamo, the second best invention after the bicycle, of course, the dynamo on my bike. I'll link a video up to that because it goes into depth how I manage that all, and also like a power bank. Yeah, go watch that video because that will explain it all much better. Tempted to get a rear rack and some panniers, mini panniers, top of rack bag instead of the rear seat bag and rucksack. Your bike packing setup just doesn't seem very practical or convenient. Why carry stuff on your back when you have the benefit of the bike to carry it for you? Maybe it could be something you try, a better setup for next year. Also, how are you getting on with your new handlebars? Okay, the first part of this question is why don't I run panniers on my bike? Because they're apparently my setup is impractical. I can tell you now, my setup is very, very practical for me. So first things first, I will start off with the rucksack situation. The only reason I wear the backpack, the rucksack, is purely for camera gear. There's nothing in there that I would take if I wasn't making the videos. If I wasn't making these videos, I would not be carrying that rucksack. It's just for the batteries, the drones, the cameras, all that sort of fun stuff. Now, obviously, most people don't need to carry that stuff. And the reason I carry that stuff on my back is for a couple of reasons. One, I keep the batteries in there and it's close to me. So batteries are terrible when it gets cold. You've got to keep them slightly warm. So keeping them on my back keeps them warm. And also putting cameras and your drone and stuff on your bike is inconvenient for me for a couple of reasons. One, it will most likely damage over time. The vibrations from the bike will damage the cameras, the sensors, so I don't want to do that. Also, if I'm leaving my bike outside, at least if that goes missing, I've got all my camera gear, which is expensive. The reason I don't have racks on my bike is not because I'm against racks or anything. When I did the coast of Europe, I had a rack on my bike. It's purely because it's much, much more convenient for me to be able to switch between the bomb track, or the two bomb tracks now, or the Sonder, and have essentially the same setup, the same carrying stuff. I can just unstrap, put it on. Now, if I was going to have racks on them bikes, I would have to find two different racks to make them fit. No, it's not impractical for me, and no, I probably don't see myself changing that because it's not impractical. My bike carries everything I need for all my bike packing trips. For me, having a rack would be more impractical, I think, and yeah, it's just easy for me just to take bags off, put them on a different bike. No, I'm not really ever tempted to put a rack on any of my bikes at the moment because it's practical. It's practical for me, and it's just easy to switch between bikes and have the same setup between bikes. Also, how am I finding the new handlebars versus the old ones? I'm liking them, the Sonder whatever they're called. I'm liking them. I will have a video shortly, soon, hopefully, on the second channel on them once I get round to doing the voiceover and editing it. It will be coming out soon. Next question is, do I ever get frightened camping alone in some of those lonely places? Frightened? No. I'm in the middle of nowhere, there's nobody around. I'm in the UK for the most part, so there's nothing that can kill you, there's no bears. You know, it's generally quite a peaceful experience. I will share a slightly funny story. Recently, I was camping and I did wake up kind of like it made me jump, and it turned out it was the moon. it must have been a really cloudy night, and then all of a sudden the cloud must have shifted, allowed the moon to shine on my tent very briefly, so it was like a flashlight, and then it went. So I thought somebody had like spotted me, so I opened the zip and I was like, what is that? And it just turned out it was the moon. The serious questions now. Jaffa cakes or jammie dodgers? It's got to be Jaffa cakes for me. They are the perfect cycling fuel. 1 gram of fat per cake, so you know what you're getting. Good for them long distance cycling adventures. I used to swear by Jaffa cakes when I was doing a lot of like ultra endurance type rides, where I'd ride like 250, 300 mile days for multiple days. Pack of Jaffa cakes, I could go for like 200 miles. I'm good. Jaffa cakes definitely. Do you take a stove and cook food out in the wild? If so, do you use and what food types, etc.? I do not anymore take any stove or anything with me like that. I pretty much could just live off cold food if that was the case, and I pretty much do when I do these trips, unless like a shop has some heated section, I might buy something from there. But no, I have taken stoves and stuff in the past. I do have one of them tiny little mini ones that you just like screw onto the little gas pot thing, but typically when I have taken them in the past, which hasn't been for a long time now, I used to just carry them around and then get to my tent or get to camp and then never bother cooking anything. I could never be bothered by that time, so I just ended up carrying it around. I just thought, why am I carrying this? So I just got rid of it out of my setup. I do have a little one. Maybe I'll go out and do a cooking video one day, who knows. But do you own a car? The quick answer is no, I do not own a car. I don't drive, I don't have a driving license. I've never needed to. I've never needed to drive. When you have the ability of being able to cycle 300 miles in a day, I'd just much rather do that. I'd much rather, if I need to go somewhere far, I'll make it an adventure. If I need to go somewhere far and fast, I'll take a train or public transport, and generally that's how I do things. I did own a car once. Obviously I didn't have a license or anything. It just sat on a driveway. I bought it really cheap, and I used it for storage of bike parts. Is one piece of kit do you pack that isn't a must but is a must-have for you? I'm very minimalistic. I don't really need much stuff. I'm not materialistic either. I could happily live with very little, and to be honest, that my bike setup represents that quite well, I think, because I don't really take anything that's not useful or I'm going to use. The only thing that is probably considered like I don't need to take on a trip is maybe some headphones, but that's more just for when I'm on the train and stuff to the rides. I can listen to some music, or sometimes I'll take a little old school iPod Classic with me if I don't want to use my phone for the music and I want to save the battery on here. But yeah, typically nothing really, just headphones maybe. There's quite a few questions related to travel outside of the UK, and this question is, any thoughts on traveling to the United States to a ride? So the answer to this question, it's the same for all over the world really. Yes, I have a lot of hopes and plans in a way to cycle and make videos for you guys outside of the UK for sure, but it has to make business sense and financial sense to be able to do it. At the moment the channel's not quite there to be able to make it feasible to go and do rides too far away. I will hopefully this year head into Europe a little bit and do a few rides there if it all goes well with the scheduling and everything. But yeah, I definitely would like to ride across the UK. I definitely would. But yes, I would definitely like to go to the States, maybe do a ride like the whole way across, or just like a big long tour across. But we'll see. I don't think it'll be happening this year, but if I can continue with the channel in the future, I'm pretty sure it will definitely be a thing. I'd love to know how you manage to dry your gear on multi-day winter trips, for instance. You seem to wear the same jacket day after day. I just can't figure out how you don't catch pneumonia. Well, you mean this jacket? This is a Patagonia Torrent Shell 2-layer. Basically, this jacket, everything underneath stays dry because I wear this jacket. If you mean the normally like a Velo jersey type long sleeve t-shirt that I always wear, I am just very strict on, if it starts raining a little bit, I just keep it dry. As for drying my gear, it's just a case of trying not to let it get overly wet, or just wear fast drying stuff. In the winter, it may not be hot and you may not just be able to dry things naturally, but when you're riding, you have wind coming against you, so if it's not raining, if you're wearing fast drying kit, it dries. This jacket dries very quick. Once you're riding in it, if it's not raining, it dries. You know, it's waterproof, so you can just wipe all the water off. Not raining, then I might hang some stuff on the outside of my bike, or at night if it's like windy, but I know it's not going to rain, which isn't very often, I might hang it in a tree. But generally, I just keep everything underneath dry. I will say, if I wake up in the morning and I know I'm just like, especially with like my bib shorts or like my trousers and my bib shorts, if they're wet and I know that the day ahead, especially early on in the morning, as soon as I get on my bike, I'm going to get wet anyway straight away, I will just put them back on wet, because within 10 minutes of riding they're wet anyway. There's no point using your dry clothes, leave them for getting warm at night and getting changed. I don't know. I think this is one that people worry about quite a lot. Have you ever been moved on while wild camping? Well, the answer to that is once, but not in years and years, and not ever on like a trip or an overnight thing. But many people probably don't know this about me, but I spent maybe 2 or 3 months, 2.5, 3 months, essentially living out of the woods. And it wasn't until and I was still working and stuff, so I'd leave and I got a bit complacent because I just knew that nobody would see me. And nobody did for them 2.5 months, until the final night. I was planning to go and do a bit of traveling. I'd been working and stuff while living in this thing. It wasn't like full on, I was just one with nature. I was still in the civilized world. I was just like kind of living night by night in the woods. But my last night in the woods, a flashlight came through and some guy was like, "Oh, you can't camp here." And I was like, "Oh, sorry, I'm just traveling. I was just on the way to somewhere and it got dark, so I just decided to set up camp here." And it was just polite and everything. And the guy was like, "Oh, no problem, yeah, I understand. Just make sure you leave in the morning." He let me stay there that night, and obviously I didn't go back, but yeah, that was the one time. It's very, very unlikely that you will ever be spotted while camping if you're doing it properly. If you're setting up late, you're leaving early, as soon as it gets dark, nobody's really going to see you. It's just the only reason I got caught there is because I left my tent or my bivvy there throughout the day. I didn't take it with me that one time, so they saw it as they must have been walking through that woods that day, and then they came back to see if somebody was there at night. Obviously I was, but yeah. Can you go through hygiene on these multi-day rides? Presumably you change out of cycling kit when sleeping, etc. Yeah, I do change out of my cycling gear that I'm riding in to go to sleep in and stuff. It's normally more cycling gear though. I normally just have a spare set of kit, maybe a pair of bib shorts and another t-shirt or something in my bag, in my dry bag, that I never ride in. It's just there for emergencies, maybe I crash or whatever. It's just like a backup of a backup kit. So I normally have like 3 outfits that I could wear, but one of them is used only for sleeping and if I really smell for the train ride home. But yeah, it just stays in there. It's just dry, it's clean. And as for hygiene, I mean, I don't mind smelling a little bit while I'm out on the trails. I'm not really bothering anyone. As for cleaning, it's just very basic. In the summer, it's obviously a bit easier. You can go to streams, have a little wash in there, bit of deodorant here and there. When I'm out on the trails, I'm not too bothered about having a bit of a musky smell, let's say that. Nobody's really bothered if you smell out in the open like this, right? And of course, just brush my teeth every morning before I go to bed. But apart from that, it's just very basic, just washes in streams, really. I wouldn't come too close to me if you see me out on the trails, just say that. Josh, the GB Divide was a massive ride that you did and you smashed it. What kind of extra training would be needed if I regularly do 100 miles per week? And what's achievable time to complete? Thanks, Dave from South Wales. Well, from South Wales, you're already on an advantage for most people, because Wales is just a tough place to ride, and you have loads of hills that you can just ride around on. If you regularly do 100 miles, it's hard to say because it's hard how you feel after doing them 100 miles each week. But my advice would be to actually just go out on a ride around Wales. Do this, and because that would be the hardest point of the ride. Go do a trip around Wales for 5 to 7 days and figure out how you feel after each day. Don't have a plan of how many miles you're going to do, but just do as many as you feel comfortable doing before you want to set up and camp. Do that for 5 to 6 days, and you will find out pretty soon how many miles you're comfortable doing each day. At a maximum and a minimum, you'll soon find that out with experience of just riding for 5 or 7 days. Going to be doing these 100 miles and you're consistently doing these 100 miles each week. The only thing I would say is do them 100 miles, add the gear to your bike so you get used to riding your bike with the added gear. That will also give you a sense of how the bike feels and also how extra tired you feel. It's really hard to predict a time frame that somebody should do that for somebody else. For me, my aim was about 14 days with filming. I think for most people, you could probably do it in anywhere from, if you're relatively fit at least, 14 to 20 days I think is like a good amount of time for you to be able to still enjoy it. And also it depends on what time of the year you're planning. If you got lots of daylight, you'll probably do more. If you're happy to ride at night, you know, there's lots of different things. Say 18 days will give you a good amount of time to enjoy. If you do it faster, cool. If you do it a bit slower, it'll give you a bit of time if there's anything that goes wrong. It's hard to really say, but I think, do go out for a ride around Wales for 5 to 7 days, and you'll figure out pretty soon what you're comfortable with riding, especially in Wales. Hi Josh, I'm a big fan of your channel and escapades. I'd like to know about your preparation before and after your trips, but from your bike maintenance and kit point of view. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too. As for bike maintenance, I do this all myself. Pretty much everything. There's nothing I wouldn't actually do myself, even building wheels nowadays, even though I don't actually enjoy doing that. So as for maintenance, I pretty much within the first day of getting back from a trip will clean my bike. If you ever see my bikes, they're never perfectly clean. I'm not that meticulous. What's that word? Whatever that word is. I'm really not somebody who cares about if my bike's got a bit of dirt on it and it's not absolutely in perfect, pristine condition. My bike is a tool for a job, but ultimately I'll get back, I'll make sure the drivetrain is clean, lubed. Most of it is just changing the chain and the brake pads, pretty much, and just generally making sure the gears are working, maybe change the gear cables. I try and change the chain more regularly than it probably needs to, just to keep the cassette lasting as long as possible, because the cassette prices right now, or for even the last couple of years, are just ridiculous, to be honest. The cassette on the bomb track costs over, it's like £130–40 at normal retail. I only ever buy it when it's on sale, but generally I'm the type of rider that will ride until something breaks before replacing or upgrading. I'm very unlikely to just think, oh, this would be better if it had a new part and replace it. I will do that at a certain point, but only normally when something breaks. As for the kit I take, it's pretty much essentially the same every year. I think the only difference is In the winter, I will take a slightly warmer sleeping bag and probably like an extra down jacket, which I might not bother taking in the summer. But to be honest, 2023, there barely was a summer, and I think I just used the warmer sleeping bag pretty much all year round. I like to take the same stuff each trip. I know where I'm at with it. I know what works for me, and yeah, it just goes from one bike to another bike pretty much. Obviously, after cleaning and stuff. Yeah, I'm very minimal. I don't get bogged down. I don't think about things too much about kit and bikes. I will say my bikes aren't always in perfect working condition on every trip. Sometimes it needs a new bottom bracket, and I'll just go, I get another ride out of this one before it blows up on me. And I sometimes take that risk, and sometimes it doesn't pay off, obviously. I even shown that on these videos. Sometimes, you know, something blows up, and I probably should have changed it before. But you know what? I like to live on the edge sometimes with stuff like that. What gearing do you use, and do you change it to match the routes? I do not change my gearing to match the routes because I'm not racing. I'm just trying to make videos and just enjoy myself on these trips, and I'm not looking for marginal gains. So my kind of rule of thumb is get the easiest gearing you can pretty much get to get up everything that you need to get up on the steep stuff. So my track, the mountain bike, has a 30 tooth chainring and a 950 tooth cassette. I can put a 52 on that on the back. However, to be honest, when I get onto that 50, I normally end up just getting bored and thinking I can walk faster than this, so I end up walking. So I haven't really bothered to do that. On the Sonda, it's a 38 tooth chainring and it's a 1142 cassette. I can pretty much get up anything with that. Again, it's probably a bit spinny if I'm riding that unloaded, but I very rarely get to ride my bikes nowadays unloaded just to go out and ride. So yeah, that's the gear ratios. I don't change it to match routes because I'm not after marginal gains, I'm not after speed. I'm just trying to make a nice video for you guys to watch. I'm not saying you're lying, but you're lying. I don't believe you. Not a chance. How hard do you find it traveling by train? The trains in my area are so bad with bikes. Yeah, this is a sad fact of the UK. Our trains aren't really that great, and they're not really designed for convenience, especially if you have bikes. But I will say, I think the online senses of traveling by train is well overblown. I'm not by all means, I am not saying the trains are perfect. They're way too expensive. They are often overcrowded. They can be so much better. 100% agree with that. And they aren't always the most reliable. But in my experience, and maybe it's just because I have the ability to travel at any time I want to, so I typically don't travel when I'm pretty sure it's going to be busy. I would say most of the time it's trouble free. So I don't think I've ever been able to not get my bike on a train because it's been too busy or anything like that. I've sometimes had to take a slightly later train because I couldn't book my bike on that certain train that I was going to previously go on. To happen whenever I'm traveling is it's either absolutely perfect, flawless, or everything goes wrong. So if one thing goes wrong early on, you know the rest of the ride, train ride is going to just be rubbish. I don't really particularly find it hard. It's maybe just a bit more stressful because you're always thinking, oh, am I going to be able to take my bike on, especially if it's one where it's just like a first come, first served. But yeah, I won't say it's great, but it's not as bad as I think the internet makes out. This one, ever fancied riding to the most remote pub? Might involve some hiker bike, but should be a good challenge. Now, if you are referring to the most remote UK pub, the one I believe it's in the west coast of Scotland somewhere, I was actually planning to do this ride last year. I think it was when I where's the M1? Is it the M1 that goes up to Scotland? When I rode the M1, the original plan was to ride the M1 and then ride to the most remote pub from there. That was the original plan instead of going to the pyramid. However, when I was planning to do that ride, I checked the pub and it was actually closed. It was closed for refurbishment, so hopefully it'll be open again. I'm not sure, I haven't checked recently, so hopefully in 2024 I'll be able to do that ride and we'll go for a pint at the most remote pub. We've been to the highest, we've been to the lowest. The most remote pubs make sense, so yeah, hopefully soon. Right, there we go. There is a bunch of your questions asked and answered. Hope you enjoyed this video and I hope I answered your questions. Hope I give you some entertainment, and hopefully I'll give you more entertainment for the rest of the year. And this windy day is getting my hands cold, so I'm going to head home and go and edit this video. I'll see you on the next one. Keep smiling, enjoy the adventure. Peace. Oh, come on, let's go.